Hey, welcome back to Jameson's Repair Shop. You might have noticed I basically just turned around from the last video because we're working on this end now. We'll start here. I want to start here. So there's just to give a rundown on what my plan is, I want to wrap this, make this corner. It's got a lot of shape in this corner. And I'm going to try it on my English wheel, because I need to get the practice on it and I can't keep avoiding using it. So I'm going to try to shape this around. It'll probably only be a segment this big, and then I'll probably have to weld it together on this in material. So let me get this, I'm going to clean up the rest of this and all down into here. I'm going to leave the paint on the balance because someone has body filled that and they've got the body line right. Are very close, so I want to leave it there for now. But I want to clean up the rest of this, just make it look like the rest. So let me get at it and see what we can get done with this video. I'd like to be able to finish this and actually finish this patch panel, like the parts for the patch panel. I doubt we'll get to the point where we'll finish the patch panel because there's quite a bit of work there to do yet. However, you never know. Might work fast enough to do it. But it won't get done if I keep talking to you like this. All right, so let's get at her. Okay, that's done. Mask is, again, like I said before, you want to be wearing a mask doing this. There's all these old paints, you have no idea what's in them. Almost bet that they're not good, and I'll show you. If you can see that or not. I had these little holes, script holes that they filled over. So I just took I didn't want to drill into them with this bit because I didn't know what size they were. So I just went over the edges like this. And got the body filling out of them, just glancing on the side so you're not actually drilling into it, and then it'll expose those, and then I used a bit of a disc just to clean them up. You saw me use the grinder with the fiber resin. You also saw me use this for doing this job. This isn't the proper sander for doing what I was doing there. This is a finish sander. Get this disc off there. So that's, if you don't have anything else, fine, that's what you have. But if you do, this isn't for that. It's slower. This one here, which I don't have, the reason I was using the finish sander is I don't have any discs for this one. They're a stick-on disc, and I need to get some, or switch it out to hook and loop. This is a lot longer throw on it. I don't know if you can see. It runs like a lot. There's a weight there. So anyway, this is the one you would use for stripping, like that. And I use these, I want to talk about these. These are Diablo sand nets. This is a 120 grit. That's what I was using on here. You can get them in a lot of different grits. And they're hook and loop setup. I find they last a long time. I did switch it out. The only thing is I switched it out and I went down into this area here, which they don't fare well on the sharp edges. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're doing a lot of sharp edge work, you might not want to venture down in there with that. So, but it does, I don't throw them out because they still have value, because you can come into places like this where there's a little bit of filler left in it and hog that out with these. And that works pretty good. And you can fold them over, they're flexible, shake them out. They don't clog up very well. Or it takes quite a bit to clog them. I think if your material is gummy, it's going to clog almost anything. But anyway, I just wanted to cover it. I'm going to leave this here for now. We'll get that in the cleanup. So now I got to look at this area right here, because I can see where it got bent. So I want to bring this back in. I want to see how close I need to be before I start forming this piece. So basically though, this looks to be good here. It just looks like this got pushed out and down some. So I need to bend that back. But if I can get this shape, this should follow. And I'm going to make it long because there's the edge right there. So I do have an edge to follow. I just need to get it back in place. So let me go ahead and do that. I just wanted to show you the tools I'm using in case someone's wondering what I use. Look how much got in this brand new filter already. So these do help, and I wouldn't use those cheap ones. I would go with the ones with the paper corrugated. I've tried them. I've tried the cheaper ones, and stuff still gets through them. Not much gets through the corrugated. All right, back at her. See where this all leads. So I did some cleanup. I'm leaving all this on for now because I need this as a guide. This I got rid of a bunch of garbage that was off there. So you're looking at, now this isn't 100%. It's down maybe just a shade. So what we're looking at is sort of like that for this panel, but down and rolled under. And I think this inner panel came straight down. It may have had a slight lip in it. It feels like it had, right around there. So anyway, not a big deal right now. So what we're looking at is this area right here. So what I have is a piece off of, when I cut this down after I formed it, put some shape in it, it already has a pretty good start to things. So I really have to kind of get it to wrap right around here. So, I mean, I'm not going to put clecos in just yet, but I am going to draw this up some with some lines. So even if you took it right from that seam and wrapped it, which I could do, but I like to have a little, because there's a flange on this too, it needs to have a flange. So I'm going to give it some overhang. And I'm going to mark it up so there's a bit of a triangle, so areas I can stay in. And then I'm going to try to work the English wheel in that area with a fairly high crown, because that wraps around pretty quickly. It's a fairly good curve there. And really, yeah, we'll get her. All right, let me go at it, see what I can do. There we go. After about half an hour on the English wheel, I got some kind of shape in it. It's still gappy here. It's not too bad there. And then it has to roll under. So I'm probably going to have to set up my shrinker to shrink this, but I don't really know at this point how much, but I can take some. I do know the shrink starts right there. So the reason I say shrinking it, because this has to be shorter out here than here to get it to go underneath. So I can start doing that, and I could shrink up in here a little bit too, just to bring that in. You can see it's quite wide open there. That needs to be brought in for sure. All right, let me see what I can do with it. Yeah, it's a little bit tight here, so I could open that up a little bit. I could stretch that a tiny bit right there. A little tweaking to do. Is it perfect? I hope to tell you it's not, but it's got shape. All right, let me continue on. There we go. It's a little loose up here, but this needs to have a flange put on it, and it joins with the rear valance. So I'm not going to play with that too much more. I got some shape on it pretty good. She wraps around. I did a little on the bottom of just shrinking just to start the process, but I don't know where it's going to come because all this section here has to be put in first. But anyway, I got that done. Well, that ready to go. And next piece, let's get this done. Out to there. Well, we've got the upper arch made piece right here. I got the piece made, not cut out. Got the forward panel made, needs to be cut down. And I got a roughed in piece on the back. And for now, this next piece of this patch panel, see how that sits like that. I want to capture this whole curve right here. So I'm going to try and draw it out. I'll probably do about this much panel right here, over to here. Well, over to meet this panel, and underneath this panel. I can't have a gap there, so it has to meet it at least. So I'll build this panel, I'll have it measured up. It's going to be from here to about there, and down to there. So it's not a big piece. About equivalent to that size there, so fairly easy to manage, to work with. But first I want to cut this out, so I'm going to draw a line in, probably a ½ inch, leave a ½ inch below that marker line, just to allow for any deviation that I may have gotten into it. I did measure this out, and that line is where the material is below, but I'm still going to leave some. So let me get this cut out. And while I'm cutting it out, I'm going to be thinking about this area here as well. But I think that's what I'll do. I'll bring it over to capture this whole tail. So it's going to have to go from about there and all the way into here, this panel. So it's going to be, it'll be about, 15 inches, 16 inches long, probably a foot deep. All right, let's get her done. Set this aside and we'll get this cut. I've got it cut out, and I cut this here, so let this sit down tight against the old fender, old quarter panel. So now these pieces are flush. So this is all sitting down nicely. It'll need to be tacked. So when I get the welder next time, I'll remember to tack this. I'm not going to weld it up yet. I'm just going to tack it in place. The clecos are all back in. Everything's fitting nice and tight. So let's get a piece now over here. I'm going to get some tape and I'll measure up what I need. And first bend, I'm going to measure this bend off here, because that's the one that is it's the sharpest one. I don't want any interference on that, because I can do this one over a piece of steel or in the brake, even though this is the flat one. But this one actually is coming down and starting to straighten out. You guys probably can't see it, but if you look at the body lines on these, just before the wheel arch, this area here, this starts to level out to align with the body lines. But I'll look at it on the fender skirt, and just to double check to make sure that the distance in the flat spot here is the same. Because if it's not, then I have to allow for it and put it in there. But I believe it's going to be very flat right about there. But we'll look it over. We'll have a see. All right, let me get a piece of steel for this, and then get my wheel arch and see if there's any difference in this piece, and we'll get at her. There we go. Now I measured off over here. That's 7.5 inches down to the body line, from that body line to that body line, not including the curve. That's just a direct, straight push with the measuring tape. And that one there is 7 1/4. So that's what I need to make here, 7 1/4. So what I have it set up on the brake. I already did the one bend. I'll show you which one. I did this line here already on it. So now I'm just doing the curve above that right here. And I'm going to do that in steps. And that's not a straight line, or it's a straight line, but it's not. It is actually wedge shape. See? It's narrower on the back end than it is in the front. So that's what I'm up to. We'll get her done. Well, there it is, kind of roughed in. I want to check that height of that body line on the fender skirt against the 7 1/4, make sure it didn't drop on me. I think it may have dropped a tiny bit. This line here is going to need some more tweaking, but I think once I roll this back a little bit more, I'll probably end up cutting this off and then roll that back some. I don't need all that material up there. Actually, I don't need all that material up there for most of it, so I could probably take about an inch, well, on an angle. I could leave about an inch from the curve, maybe 1.5 inches up. I'll see. And then I'll remeasure this distance make sure that this hasn't dropped any, because this is the time to push it up and get it right. But yeah, so she's coming on the fender skirt, okay. It needs to, I haven't done anything with this yet. That needs to be pushed in. It's being held by the clamp. And then of course, yeah, once I cut a little off that, I got to fold that back in. I don't want to take much off here because I don't have much in there. So I got to get that straightened out. So maybe I'll do that next. Just flatten that out. I'm going to put a mark on it from where to flatten it, because this isn't quite up there enough yet. Just a little low right there. Yeah, I think this side's good. And once I curl it back, it'll fit right down in there. Maybe I'll take just a little wedge off up here before I do it. I think I will. I'll draw it out and we'll do it. All right. There's another piece of the puzzle put in place. It still all needs to be tweaked a bit, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Just hold on, I'll grab my pointer. All right, got my pointer now. So, obviously it's opened up there because we're over top of another sheet of metal. This lip needs to fold back just a tiny bit more. It's fitting okay here, but this is not quite where it needs to be. It needs to be up there. Well, that'll come when I roll this back in. But yeah, accounting for this piece here. This needs to be curved, because you'll see it needs some shape put in it. You see against the fender skirt, it's opened up. Actually, that fender skirt's just a shade a little too high when I put it in the last time. It just needs to come down some. Anyway, not a big deal. I know I had it in right a minute ago. So that's 7 1/4 inches from there to that ridge. So that has to be the same. This one here, I'm not happy with it. I don't like this now that I've got the fender skirt in where it's supposed to be, but I'm going to double check the fender skirt to make sure it is where it's supposed to be. I think when I cut this off, it may have dropped some, I don't know. But anyway, that's a fairly easy fix. But it's still going to have to be fixed because it's not going to look right. So yeah, it's quite a gap there, so it needs to come in quite a lot. So I need to roll that in. It's fine at the front, at the B pillar, but it's not good here. So that's got to be dealt with. I'll mark it off and do it. This upper panel looks pretty darn good. So that's it. Now, before any welding is done, of course, obviously you have to fix the things I'm not happy with. A little tweaking. And then I'll build this other little piece. That's just a piece with some shape in it that'll drop down. It'll be welded in right from along this. I'll just cut it along there. Just continue on with that cut is when the time comes, but I'll just make it from this lip down. I'm not going to roll it over. I could roll it over just to keep it in place. That's good. Actually, might not be a bad idea just to keep the reference. It's easy to put a little lip on that. That's simple. I don't have to worry about what it looks like up here. Just have to, so it always sits down nicely. I think I will. It gives it strength too. And then when I'm ready to do the cut in, I can cut it down and then put it through. But anyway, she's starting to size up that old quarter panel. Yeah. So now, once those are all tacked together, I'll put them back up on the jig. And, oh, sorry, I was getting out of focus. I'll put them back up on the jig. And we'll have to weld in with the new flange that I built and cut back to flush with the wheel arch. So I'll have to weld that on too. She's coming though. She's looking pretty good. There now. I went ahead and I tightened up on these spots a little bit. This one was it was out up here actually, so I had to recurve this a little bit, and it brought that right in. And now, I'll see on the other side here, this one's not bad up here. It fits in nicely. I had to do, again, recurve this a bit to set it down inside. This is out just a tiny bit still, not much. But then you got to remember it's overlapping on this sheet of 18 gauge here, the upper sheet. The bottom is, you can't see that very well, but it needs to be formed yet. But with that flange that I made for the wheel arch, or for the wheel fender skirt, that'll give me that form to work with, and I can work my way back. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to straighten this up a little bit right here, because it's not sitting down properly. It needs to be ground a tiny bit. This is when I did this, it pushed it up underneath. And then there's this spot right here, needs to be ground, you know, cut out with the zip cut and spot welded and welded, tack welded together. That's the word I'm looking for, tack welded with the MIG, not spot welded. So that's it. So let me get that done. And then once, I'm not going to build this piece yet. I'm going to leave it. I've got a plan for this whole quarter panel once this is all built, this patch panel. So you'll have to hang in there with me. There is a plan. I'm not going to reveal the plan because my plans change on the fly sometimes. But I do have a plan that I'm thinking about to do here. And it's mainly because of all the work that has to be done in back. But we'll go through that when the time comes. I did go up here and crisp this line up a bit, but I see right here it needs a little bit more touching up. But that can still all be done after I do all the work I'm going to do right now. So right now I'm going to get the grinder, cut that out, and I'm going to tack those together. We'll get this off, put her up on the bench, and I'll show you what I'm going to do with the flange, because the flange needs to go on this now. That's the next step here, is getting the flange on. That one I made. Alright, let's go for it. Let's see what this thing looks like. Everyone's eagerly waiting to see what the homemade quarter panel looks like. Patch panel. It's not a full quarter. Alright, put that off there. perfect? Nope, it's not perfect. But it looks a heck of a lot better than that. Alright, I'm going to put this up on the bench and we'll go over and have a look at it. We got her up on the bench. And still got to treat it gingerly because it needs to be welded on the back here. See that heat? But you do, if that's not bad. I've done a lot worse. I was going to say I've seen a lot worse. I've actually done a lot worse than that. I've had heat go away out like that, and I paid dearly for it. All these little Cleco holes, very simple. Just a zip with the MIG and they're filled. Grind them off. But yeah, so I see the penetration isn't 100% on this one. So I'm going to have to make sure I do a good job on this side. I'm going to have to change my heat settings maybe a little bit. Anyway, let's grab that flange that I made for this baby. Now again, I haven't trimmed this part of the flange off yet, so it's not going to fit 100%. All right, which way does it go? Goes like that. So that's what we're looking like. So obviously there's some trimming, there's some fitting that will need to be done here. Especially down here, because I got this is too long now, but this is what it's going to be like. It should fit down in there okay, and it does, yeah. Yes, it fits pretty good. It's just these wings need to be fixed up. Well, there we go. One 1965 Ford Thunderbird patch panel for the right hand side. Not done, but looking better. Here's the flange. We'll put the flange on. It's going to need some tweaking. I'll mount this back in the fender skirt. And I have to trim, like I said, trim the inside here to bring it down flush. And then the whole thing will sit right over there where it needs to be. And because it is the factory fender skirt, it'll have the right shape. I will have to measure back from here to there, and I said 9 inches and 9.5 inches in it. It's not. It's like 13 1/4. Just to be clear on that. Anyhow, thanks for hanging in there. Thanks to all the new subscribers for coming on board to watch this journey that I'm on, building this old Thunderbird over again. And I really appreciate all the subscribers that are asking questions and giving me great advice, commenting on my videos. It all helps. It keeps me motivated. And the more I get motivated, the more content I can bring. So, thank you very much, everyone, and we'll see you in the next one.